Middle East expert. Now we move on to our next news. At least 93 Palestinians were killed in Israeli airstrikes on the Gaza Strip, according to the Hamas-run Health Ministry. Another 278 people were reportedly wounded on Tuesday as Israeli ground operations continued. The ministry did not specify the number of combatants among the dead, but local officials said dozens of women and children were among the victims. One strike in northern Gaza's Shati refugee camp killed a Hamas legislator, a man, a woman, and their 6 children. Another strike in Tel al-Hava killed 19 members of a single family. The Israeli military has not commented on these strikes. The IDF urged Gaza City and Jabalia residents to flee southward amid ongoing offensives. The military announced the demolition of a 3.5-kilometer Hamas tunnel and claimed to have killed dozens of terrorists while destroying infrastructure in a joint operation. Now we're joined by Professor Rohan Gunaratna. He's an international security expert joining us live from Singapore. Thank you, Professor Rohan, for joining us today. Good to see you. How does this killing of a Hamas legislator alongside civilians in refugee camps impact the classification of these strikes? Are these legitimate military targets, or do they risk being seen as indiscriminate attacks? Professor, could you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, let me repeat the question. So, how does this killing of a Hamas legislator alongside civilians impact the classification of these strikes?
What we have seen is a significant rise in violence. And this violence, we cannot blame the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. We can't blame any other party except Hamas, because this devastating war was caused by a Hamas terrorist attack. If Hamas releases the hostages, if Hamas disarms, and if Hamas surrenders, this war will end. Otherwise, there will be persistent losses of Palestinian civilians. So I believe that all governments should work towards a permanent resolution of this conflict. Otherwise, the terrain, the challenges that are facing, especially of maintaining law and order where there are humanitarian and food supplies, I think that all these things can be done if there comes a point where there is a willingness and sufficient pressure on Hamas to surrender, disarm, and release the hostages.
And Professor, with no official comment from the Israeli military yet, how important is transparency and intelligence sharing in maintaining international credibility during such operations?
Certainly, Israel has been quite transparent. It has already informed very clearly its objective. That is, Gaza needs to be Hamas-free, threat-free, so that Israel will not suffer another attack. But again, rather than sharing intelligence, I think what is important is to share information of what is happening on the ground and what can be done to minimize civilian deaths, because civilian deaths is what we have to stop, what we have to reduce. Of course, every war produces civilian deaths. But in this case, it is largely because Hamas is playing a hide and seek game where it has infiltrated civilian organizations. It is using places of religious worships, schools, hospitals to hide and fight. And because of the deceptive nature of Hamas, the blame for the civilian deaths should be on Hamas, not on Israel.
Thank you, Professor, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we stay on the topic. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas has warned that the bloc